This is 1985. The French government sends a group of spies down to New Zealand to blow up this Greenpeace ship.
Warriors of the Rainbow are now in Auckland to try to stop French nuclear testing in the Pacific.
We are at the nation's capital at FilmFestDC. I am here with director Edward McGurn. He has made the new film Rainbow Warrior. So many people don't know this, especially people my age who were not alive in the 80s. But Greenpeace was protesting nuclear testing when one of its ships, called Rainbow Warrior, like the documentary, was bombed by agents of the French government. So director Edward McGurn decided to make a documentary about this story. So my first question for you is, why in 2024? So this was a story that was huge on the media back in the 80s, but then it was kind of forgotten. And why did you decide to bring it back?
This is 1985. The French government sends a group of spies down to New Zealand to blow up this Greenpeace ship, right? To stop French nuclear testing. Now, what happens is these guys basically, I think I can say it, fuck up from beginning to end the entire way. So the whole story is basically sort of Argo meets the Pink Panther in New Zealand, 1980s, and it's all set on a 1980s synth soundtrack in what is probably one of the wildest non-secret secret agent movies you've ever heard. So, I mean, the reason to go back to it is everything that could have gone wrong for the secret mission went wrong. Like the spies basically get busted at every turn. They get, the police are after them even before the ship actually blows up. They do manage to blow up the ship, and it became very serious. But I mean, this is sort of it's a wild story that had never been properly told. And then I got to sit down with one of the French agents who told me the story from start to finish. The other reason why it's so relevant is ultimately this is the story of how a small group of people, these Greenpeace activists from the 1970s and 80s, really with no resources, managed to provoke a government into such a massive up and actually make a huge difference. I mean, this led to the end of nuclear testing in the Pacific. And they did it with very little resources, and they did it because they were passionate. I was a kid, I was 8 in 1985, and we were on family vacation in New Zealand the week it happened. So I actually remember seeing, this is the Rainbow Warrior. This is a ship I'd heard a lot about. I was a huge fan of Greenpeace as a kid. Whales were my favorite animal because of their anti-whaling campaigns. These were sort of my legends in port in New Zealand. I see this ship, and it's at the port, halfway underwater, sunk, and it had been sunk 2 days before. And it was such a shocking image to see this ship blown up in port. The amazing lesson that Greenpeace continues to teach us is that as daunting as these world's challenges seem to be, you actually can make a difference, and you can make a difference by acting locally. If you see something, you don't need to, sail your boat across the entire Pacific or the entire Atlantic to go talk to the UN in a grand gesture. You can do stuff locally and make a difference. If you see a construction site and something is messed up across the street, like we all have our part to play, but you don't have to take on the entire world. You can take on your little piece of it and your little injustice and make a difference in your backyard.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Best of luck in your future endeavors. Thank you very much.
Cool.